En vez de continuar en español, I'm going to continue in English. Since I'm more comfortable with that, I speak that at work. And I think most of the information I have is only relevant for you if you can actually speak English. And so to give a little bit of context who I am, I'm a fellow Javian. I don't know how you call people that live in Javea, but I work in a co-working space in Javea. So in Nexopia co-working space, so I'm down the road from wherever you are. I'm next to the police station and local government. I started this workspace because I always need some inspiration around me, and I think remote workers, digital workers, people from different countries are inspiring. My history is I'm from the Netherlands. I was born there, and around 30, I moved to Mexico, in the north of Mexico, and there, after some incidents with narcotraficantes, narcos, we moved downstairs to Playa del Carmen. And as I usually do, I started there, for example, Startup Weekend. So we did 26 events, like I was also doing, of networking events, drinks. We call them iTuesday. And Startup Weekend is a global movement to help people start their own business in 54 hours. So if you're curious, that's a very interesting movement. They teach you the basics of software design and thinking how to conquer the world with software. So Startup Weekend. Most locations in the world have Startup Weekends. And if you are inspired to do something in the digital space, want to become a remote worker, I'm sure in Valencia and the bigger cities in Spain, there are events called Startup Weekend. Over here, I just recently started a project going from digital to a restaurant. So you'll probably see this in the future. But my main income and my main experience is with this company. I started Convert.com in 2009, 2010. That is an A/B testing software platform where a couple of hundred companies pay us a good amount of money every month to do software as a service. So so they pay us anywhere between $600 and $1,000 every month. And to keep that company running, I have around 40 people in Convert. And as the original founder and CEO of that company, I always try to help people grow in their work. And I think part of that growth is what I did today, just share my learnings, share what you need to do to be successful in the remote work environment. I think one of the most important things is what you see here, understanding that if you are a remote worker, you are the brand. So if you have plans to go in this direction, one of the best things you can do, and this is a kind of a webinar packed with all these kind of tips for you to actually move forward. So make notes or see the recording later. You need to build a brand around yourself. And since you are the product that you're going to sell, you need to eventually be an expert in a particular area, and you need to have an income that sustains your lifestyle. If you work in Javea, that currently possibly means you're making 1,200, 1,400 euros. Translated to hourly rates, we're probably talking about 9 euros net hourly rates. So if you ever want to become kind of a freelancer that charges $50 to $100, because usually that's the currency we use in the rest of the world, then you need to start building a brand today. And that usually means a decent picture, be active on LinkedIn, and start following people in the area where you think you can help. So in this case, you see my work over the last 10 years. I have now almost 8,000 people following me, connections. I'm very active. I write articles. I try to help people all day long. Well, not all day long, usually a couple of minutes every day, but it looks like I'm fairly active. You can pick other platforms, but I think for a professional career, LinkedIn is the platform to start. So invest in a good picture where you work, and each of the jobs that you're leaving behind, of each of the work environments that you do, ask for a referral and make sure that they're on LinkedIn. So I think that's super important for you as a brand. Then in your journey towards independent income, I think you can understand that it doesn't go overnight. And overnight, I don't think nobody gets an hourly rate or $100 an hour overnight. It takes work, long hours in the beginning, in the evening to actually get there. But I think you can start by imagining the goal for yourself. That could be maybe $100 a month doing work in the evening besides your current job. Moving to 500. I think if you're consistent and you want to become a remote worker, working in hours that fit you and your family life, I think you can go from 0 to 1,400 euros in 2 years. And I'm not going to solve that problem for you. I think you can. And it's taking the opportunities and understanding a little bit how the world works. The world speaks English. That's where the money is. That's not in Spanish. So remote work, limiting yourself to Spanish is only good if you do things in English and Spanish, like translating or things like that. So English is the main remote work language. So that's super important. That's why I do this session also in English. But you can start really small. You can start with something 5 cents a job. And that's a concept here. Look at Amazon Mechanical Turk. So Amazon Mechanical Turk is a website from Amazon, the same where you may be ordering things. And that remote work in Amazon basically means you do tiny, tiny, tiny things. And this is an article that you'll find if you're looking for this concept. And I think that's the session for today. I'm not going to give you solutions. This is not what you should do. This is just a starting point of all these sites I'm going to mention of how you could go from 0 to 100 and from 100 to 500. And this is one of those ways. It's charged by a hit. It's a small job, maybe 5 cents, 10 cents, 20 cents, 50 cents. And they're jobs that you can do in the evening, sometimes even from your phone, sometimes on the road, sometimes making dinner. Those things are possible. And a hit is, for example, hey, I want you to go to Google, type in convert.com and find us, and then click on it. And make me a screenshot of the Google and the click of our website and add that to this task. Check off that you're done. And once verified, you get 30 cents. Now, that's not something that will very quickly turn into $1,400, but I'm not trying to make $1,300 in the first month. I'm trying to show you that you can go from 0 to 100 with very little work, because where most people are right now is probably not the work that they like. It's probably not the work that they desire, and that's why you're here in this session. What can you do to get out of that? Amazon Mechanical Turk is one way to push your self-esteem and saying, I can actually also do this. and you'll learn on how this world works. There's lots of little work options in Amazon Mechanical Turk. And you have to register, and you have to figure out how to get an email correctly registered. Maybe you have to identify yourself. Maybe all those things will add to your learning on remote work. So start with something as simple as Amazon Mechanical Turk. On your journey of all the learnings that you do, you need to write. So you need to write small blog posts on your LinkedIn account of your learnings. We need to see the history of you when we hire you in a couple of years at $100 an hour. We need to see what you've learned. You need to be an entrepreneur. You need to be a problem solver. So you need to take people on the journey of your remote work. You cannot be shy. You cannot be completely introverted. You have to be the brand. And so one of the things that you can do, and I'm already logged into Fiverr, is a next step, for example. Maybe besides Amazon Mechanical Turk, you actually want to sell a skill that you have. And that could be something very simple. Let's do something with the beach. Let's see what we have. I will send you a custom video from a tropical beach for €9. That's a gig. That's what we call a gig. So in Fiverr, for very little money, you can start offering a service to somebody else in the world. They could be from anything to translate. I translate 500 words from Spanish to English or English to Spanish for $4.82 in the basic plan. Standard, 200,000 words, premium, €100. And there they are, your first €100. So on Fiverr, you can register and do kind of anything from video animation to maybe something that's a hobby for you, and you can start doing it over there. But here you start getting to a problem or a challenge that you have to start understanding here. It's the rating systems. It's the 5-star. So when you move from 0 to €100 or from 100 to 500, you very quickly realize the image is everything online. So your LinkedIn page or your Fiverr page or Mechanical Turk page, anything is super important. You can rate the customer, but the customer will rate you. And if you don't have an impeccable history, this lowers the chance of you having work. So what you have to learn in the remote work in the very beginning, and I think even very long in the relationship of remote work, is everybody knows everything about you. So if you mess up a job right now at your work, your boss will know it, and maybe your colleagues. But if you mess up a job online, everybody will know it forever. So having a perfect score automatically forces you to be very communicative. You cannot be a remote worker without extreme communication. So that means if you have doubts, you need to ask. If you have a problem, you need to tell them before they come to you. If you don't understand their message, you need to ask or make a video. If you then still don't understand them, you need to jump on a Zoom call. So it is communication that will make you go and be successful in an online work. It's not only the work that you provide, but also the level of communication that you do. Every website will have some sort of rating system, and every website and every person that hires you looks at those rating systems. You get more jobs if your rating is 5. Now, each of the systems have ways to kind of remove bad ratings, and sometimes they don't remove them. And sometimes you maybe have to do the work for free to make sure that that bad rating goes away. Whatever you need to do to make that rating work is kind of what you have to do. That's kind of the reality of remote work. And it sometimes is swallowing things that are very unjust. For convert, our rating is really important. People write about us. So it is possible that I sell a $1,000 plan in January. The person comes back to us in October and says, I've only used a $1,000 plan till February. I would like you to completely refund $8,000 to me. At Convert, we do that because it is super important that in the online world, people speak highly of us. And $8,000 is not something that will hurt me as much in the short term as much as it will hurt me in the long term. So I'll take it. And that's very unjust, and that's not fair, and that will hurt financially, but we'll still do it. So that's something important. It's a mental shift that you also need to make. So Fiverr is one of the, I think, very interesting platforms because you can do a lot of ideas. So bookmark this, it's 5 with double R, and searching categories where you're familiar in. There are lots of different categories that are interesting. Even architects, like I hired the architect, for example, for the project that I do in Benitachel in Peru. And she's a student and she did great work. But I, for example, hired 4 architects at the same time. I paid them all $50 for one drawing. And that way I could test the communication, I could test the quality, and I kept the best one. And that's what people do. They'll just go and find the best. Another way to kind of take people on the journey that you're on to become that remote worker that you want to be is write on Medium, for example, besides LinkedIn. It's a blog platform, it's free, you don't have to set up your own website. And I think with just LinkedIn and Medium, you can reach your audience. Little by little, when you jump through these platforms, you'll start noticing things that you're good at, that people like what you do. And from that, you need to specialize. Specialization is the key to a higher rate, higher income. I always draw the example is, would you prefer to go to a general doctor if you know you have particular cancer, or you would go to a specialist? You usually go to a specialist and are willing to pay more for that specialist because they are so special in that particular area. So if you know how remote work works and you want to kind of increase your rates, maybe you're already talking about $20 an hour, you would like to move to 50. The real fast track way to get there is to find a niche. I'm coaching a person in India right now. He is a developer making, for my area, coding up A/B tests. You don't need to know what it is. And he says, I'll test on, I can do anything. Well, we don't need you to do anything, because if you do anything, you're worth $10 an hour. But if you can code up in 2 particular platforms and only on Shopify, then you're probably the only 2 people in the world that is so specialized in that you can ask for $50 an hour. The benefit of being a super specialist, your LinkedIn profile and your Medium articles will show for it, and people will start asking you. Because all of a sudden, instead of needing to apply for jobs, people will find you because you are now the expert in the field. And that could be anything. I found a specialist the other day that showed an advertisement here in this region, and she's an architect in Alicante. And she basically says, I'm only taking customers that have a second house that is abandoned, left by their family, and they want to turn it into an Airbnb. That's my specialty and nothing more. I will make you money on a house that's probably inherited and is now losing you money. I will do that for you. So if you want to make money on that, and I bookmarked that page because I'm like, that's so specialistic. I loved her photos. I was like, wow, anybody that has that problem, I'd love to recommend her because she seems to be the specialist in that area. She moves with low budget, an old house that's been left in the family and turned into a money-making machine on Airbnb. That's special. That's something that people are willing to pay for. Another site that you could use is TaskRabbit. So we have TaskRabbit.com, and you can look it up in Spanish. But again, I recommend you to go for the English because I think your market is significantly bigger eventually. But you can see things over here and make money. It's like, hey, I can make 50 euros actually installing a table by somebody in Alicante in this region. So they're interesting things in TaskRabbit. They're a clear particular project. It's similar to Fiverr, but TaskRabbit is including things like installations and things that you can set up with IKEA and things like that. So this is a source. I don't think it's super popular in Spain yet, but you can take a look at it. It allows you to kind of start with something online and take it offline. Another platform, which is, I think, one of the biggest platforms in the entire world, and this is also where we hire a lot of people, is Upwork. So Upwork is very similar to Fiverr and TaskRabbit, but not so specific. It's not like one particular project. This is like an extension of your LinkedIn. This also offers payment facilities. So I pay Upwork and Upwork pays you, and that's all in it. And again, it is a massive group of people. You can find work. You can. Okay, I'm not going to log in right now for the account. But basically, anything that you can think of in the remote work, like if you like design and if you like cartoons, which probably doesn't make you much money right now in Javea, but it can make you money online. And so here we have a graphic designer that is now charging $15 an hour, currently in the Ukraine and online. And so there's all these people that do specific things, and they're very graphic. It is selling. They're selling themselves. This is the work that they do. This is what I can do for you. Imagine that I can do this for you. So that's how that works. It's like your LinkedIn page on this particular platform. And again, lots of jobs histories. As an employer on Convert, I look at that. If you complain about a boss 3 times or about a person 3 times, I won't hire you because you're the whining type. That usually means you didn't do a good job in communicating this. So that means if you complain a lot about other people, that automatically means for me that you're not the type of person I want to work with. So if I see that in this history, and I don't see things like, oh, I wasn't really happy with this design, and then your reply should be, oh, I'm really sorry that you didn't like it. I thought we had an agreement. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I completely refunded your experience and I'll take it into learning for the future. That's one of those moments where you swallow and just move it away, because I'm going to see that. I can see December 2017, no feedback given. I can see those things. I can see the history. I can see it up to years from now. And it all affects the current work environment, the current opportunity for jobs. So I think that's really important to know, that your brand is something you need to protect and you need to fight for and you need to defend. But understand that everything you do is public. So people will write about you, the good or the bad way. You should have prevented that in the past. You should have asked, are you happy? Are you still happy? Are you still happy? Are you still happy? You probably have to ask that every couple of weeks on the same job. Everything going to plan, etc., etc. And still it can happen to you. But look at these people. Would you select these people? 100% job success rates. That's amazing. Why are they all the way on top? Because the 99 ones are above it. Because who wants the 96 if you can have 100% success rate? So that's how the world works. The best ones will float on top. And in the beginning, it's not even the best ones. It's probably the ones that have 100% job success rate. It's the perception of your success. Other options I think are interesting are micro workers. It's another site that you can look at. Micro workers is very similar. They're also doing a lot of e-commerce parts. So sometimes in e-commerce that you can say, oh, you can change this image. You can do little jobs for a couple of euros, and you collect your evening salary by doing a couple of things: doing a survey, taking a survey, transcribing, imaging, find an image. There's jobs where go to Google Maps, find me all the restaurants in Javea and put it in an Excel list. All these kind of jobs exist. And they're not the glamorous jobs. This is not something that you probably want to do forever. But imagine you just have 2 hours a day and you want to make 20 euros extra every evening. That's possible with this kind of work. And that's 20 euros a day. That's 100 a week. That's 400 a month. If you're consistent, that's really good. That's another 5,000 a year that you didn't have. And so having a backup plan for any kind of work, I think that's super important for anybody working, is having a backup. And I think with that, I actually would like to take it back to, and now we have 7 people. I think we have a unique opportunity here because we're not so many people to actually do Q&A, do answering questions, because it is not something that is very obvious from a presentation like this. So if you're comfortable, we can do this in Spanish. If you're comfortable unmuting yourself, great. If you're not comfortable, write it in the chat. I'll read it out. But we have this unique opportunity now today to have a conversation. So, Raul, take it away. What would you? We don't hear you. I think you're muted.
Micros abiertos si queréis, si podéis hacerle la pregunta a Dennis, hablar con él en cualquier idioma. Creo que habla japonés, chino, ¿no? ¿Cómo estaba?
Buhau. No, I don't speak. I just speak Dutch and Spanish and English for now. I understand German if you can.
La
And I speak
atención
Mexican.
Ah, mexicano.
Tex-Mex. I speak Tex-Mex. No.
Alejandro,
So
¿quieres
of the
participar?
people that are here.
Hi.
Hola.
Hola.
Hi.
First, thank you for the presentation and for the tips you had. Very interesting. And one doubt I always have with this kind of jobs is what's about taxes? How do you have some recommendations, or if you are working, I don't know, if you are digital nomad, and where do you pay your taxes, or what do you have to have in mind regarding the taxes?
Okay. I'm not a tax advisor. And so I have to do a disclaimer here. I'm not a tax advisor. Always consult your own tax advisor, please. So what I think you can do, I mean, all these platforms have a connection to Spain. So this will be transparent to the governments and the tax officers. So that flow of money will be transparent to them. Now, is it interesting for them? That's another thing, right? So should it be autonomous? Probably. Do these platforms force you to do that? Probably not. Does it make sense for you to go for a 300 euro autonomous monthly subscription kind of to the government thing? I doubt it. So I would definitely think from here to 500 euros a month, you should go and do this, right? And in the scenario where you need to declare it, I think there is a set amount that you can probably declare additional to your regular income that you already have. And you can just be transparent about it if you so desire to do so. I don't think you're on anybody's radar for 500 euros a month at all. If you go into the 1,000 or 2,000, I would definitely recommend you going and explore the autonomo, or maybe even setting up a company like an SL, depending on your situation.
But
I wouldn't
yes,
go for it. I wouldn't go
Yeah.
for it because it's not from here, like it's from 0 to 1. That's the problem. Usually it's from 0 to 1, the 0 to 100. Like if you worry about all taxes, then you won't make to 100, right? Because if you ask a tax advisor, the advice is you need to go autonomo, and you're like, that's 350 euros. And so I wouldn't talk to a tax advisor. I would see if this is something for you, and see if you can make 100 euros a week, right? So I definitely, and this is terrible because it's all recorded, but I wouldn't go there. I would go for the go and make money and then figure out how to pay taxes on it. Once you know this is something you want to do, you can do, that you're good at, there's actually a market for your specialty, and then I would go into taxes. Like
Okay, but
worst case scenario is you get an audit, which is very rare, and you pay a 500 euro fine, and you need to pay the 30% taxes on top of it. That's really the worst case that can happen in this area. And so I think it's an acceptable risk personally, but I am high risk because I've been an entrepreneur for 15, 20 years. So my risk tolerance is very different for somebody else. So that's something you need to be aware of, like what's your risk tolerance in these kind of things. Entrepreneurs will have to always take more risk than people that are an employee.
Yeah,
that's kind of the nature of, there's very little people that make a lot of money without taking risks.
Yeah.
There's a correlation there. I mean, you could be super smart, have a PhD, you have a patent, and you made $1 million. That's rare. The rest of us just take more risk and work harder, or smarter, whatever it is. But usually risk is involved in it.
I think that's a good point, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, or to point it out, so everyone has to be aware. It's an own decision how to work with, and just to have this in mind. And that's a good point. You say you're an entrepreneur and you like risk, and yes, no risk, no fun, no money, no.
Even if you're very low risk, I would still say make 400 euros a month. Go and try that. I mean, it's like, if you're uncomfortable, like try and make the autonomo. Try and make the cost of autonomo, which is 350 euros, which is 50 euros to 75 euros for your gestor, for legal fees and things like that. So try and make it to 500, right? Try and make it. And if you're then still very uncomfortable, then go autonomo, and then you have the money for it, right? Then you. But from here to there should be. I think it's a very unwise thing to start on day number 1 registering yourself as autonomo. That seems to be very counterproductive to me.
Yeah,
like
sure.
It's like printing business card before you have a restaurant. It's like, where do you send those people? Like, I would go in debt just to think I might potentially want to go and be an entrepreneur. I would go always the other way around. And if you're not comfortable there, I think this is automatically validating that you're not ready. Like, if you cannot take a risk, not even the one not registering as an autonomo and actually start making money online, then your risk tolerance is really low, and you probably have a very frustrating journey ahead of you. So I think it's maybe a perfect test.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, we have one question. Those are always the hardest. Let's see if there's in chat. Oh, okay, somebody left. Okay, anybody else? So,
what is your experience in Spain, or especially in Javea? Are there already a lot of people working doing such jobs, or is it still very low, the participation?
So there are a lot of people. Almost everybody that comes from another country to Javea and is not 50. So anybody that's between 25 and 50 is almost always a remote worker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So all these people that you see that you don't understand the language of, they're probably a remote worker.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my experience. Most of them work at home. They either work in a co-working space or something like that. But pretty much everybody in Arenal that opens a laptop is one of those people.
Mm-hmm. And which kinds of jobs do they do? What's your experience? Or is there a specialization?
They're all over the place. There are people, like I can look at the people I know, for example, in this co-working space. There is a doctor that actually consults Dutch people all over the world that travel and need medical assistance remote. That's not a job that I expected to find in a remote setting, but it exists because insurance companies, even my AXA, offers me to have a doctor 24/7. I can call a hotline and they help me. The doctor doesn't actually know me, they doesn't see me, but I'm like, I fell or my child fell, and like that's a job. I have a psychologist right now, a clinical psychologist. So if somebody wants to jump off a building, he is sitting in my co-working space, kind of convincing them to do otherwise. We have project manager. We have somebody like runs projects for the London city government. Just communicating from here. We have a person that makes podcasts, like the audio and video podcast. We have developers that code up. We have people like me, like I'm sort of like a manager, kind of doing Zoom calls 6 hours a day. It's kind of people like me. What else do I know that are in Javea? Lots of people that have their e-commerce sites and start up their companies. Lots of us that eventually start remote work. At one moment in time, we're all tired of being the product. It's a natural evolution of us. So you don't want at one moment in time to be the hourly rate. That's usually when you get a little older and you're like, hey, I actually want to spend time with my kids, or I also want to travel. And if I don't travel, there's no income. Because a remote worker is literally an employee of somebody else, just not in the location. Even more complicated because your own brand, your own marketing, you have to do everything yourself. So you're an autonomo that works remote for somebody else. If somebody else decides you're not fit anymore, you're out of a job. Then you have to find another one. That's all fine to transition from a fixed location to a remote location. But after a couple of years, lots of these people don't want to be the product anymore, and they want to have a product. And then you can think of the whole, I write a book, I make a course, so you disconnect your knowledge from your physical presence and then package it. And you're saying, I know so much about design, I'll make a course. I know so much about being a remote worker, I documented the entire journey, I want to take other people on the journey. This is what you need to do to make your first $100. Pay me $1 for the course. Disconnect it from you. And then that's usually the first step, that they disconnect themselves. They package their knowledge into a product, then they sell it online, get more experience. And then usually the next step is either something like an e-commerce. They've set up a shop, or they build a product like a software product like I did. Like we build a software as a service where they have monthly subscriptions to sell something, to do something in the world. And that usually comes with a lot of experience where you bumped into a problem and you like to fix that problem. And then the journey starts of finding developers and things like that. So the natural evolution of a remote worker is somebody frustrated with the current job or the location where they are, or both. Then they disconnect from location and job and they become a remote worker for one or multiple companies. Then they realize they need multiple companies, so they are less risk. Maybe then they make a product like you see in Fiverr. I sell you a product. I go to the beach and sing a song for your daughter in Jamaica. That's a product. I can do it today, tomorrow. I have just a 3-day window, and it's more like you package your skill set in a product, or you write a book. Like my wife does that. She writes lots of books, and she is selling them and has community on Instagram, and hundreds of thousands of people follow her. That's kind of her product. But if my daughter is screaming, I think right now she's screaming in the diagonals, there's a problem. She's still making money. The books are being sold on Amazon. And so that is kind of the end goal where people usually want to go. It's like, that's the dream. It doesn't work exactly like that. It's like, you're not getting rich by doing nothing. That still doesn't work because my wife is still 10 times a day posting an Instagram thingy, connecting to the situation where she's at, and all her followers like it, and she sells more books just because she's on top of mind. So, and eventually people maybe actually have a product and that ranks well, and you don't have to do that much work because the product maybe makes 2,000-3,000 euros every month, even if you don't do anything anymore. And that's passive income. I don't think that exists, but that's what they usually sell you when they think remote work is like passive income. That's how you can make money. But the first 10 years of your remote journey is probably not passive income. It's very active work. It's very engaging. You have to do a lot. And maybe at that end of that journey, you have a passive income that you don't have to work for. But definitely don't get sold on the idea that you don't have to work and make money. That hardly exists.
Yeah, sure. I agree.
Don't buy those courses.
No, that's for sure.
So that's it. Thank you for the question. Anybody else wants to break in and go in? That's actually more fun. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, me first, I want to say hello to everybody, to say thank you to you for explaining many things for us, because I know the future is internet, things like that you know. One day I want to know about that you do business and internet. You know that it's not easy to know, because when you are right here, I'm from South America. When you arrive, I am really thankful. Yeah, you know, with the Spain, with Europe, when you arrive, you need to know to work in many things, but you have the opportunity to know other things, other works, things like you do. I want to know where are you located for one day you explain me or how to do it or how to start to do, because sometimes you have many things in that you never know and I can do. That's the thing that have a better explanation, because I want to know many things. I want to know how to start, how to do it, and that's the thing that I want to say. Thank you for explaining that you work and how you do it.
Oh, you're welcome. And yeah, I think that mentality of wanting to know many things is actually what's going to make you successful, right? It's like, if you have to start really broad with the energy to kind of do something. Si quieres podemos cambiar en castellano, ¿eh? Estás aquí como muy cerca, como como
Es que se me equivocó la L de aquí.
Yeah, like I will keep doing it in English. If you want me to switch, it's up to you to tell me. But knowing many things is important, and that's kind of what an entrepreneur sometimes needs to do. I ask everything. I'm curious about things, and but maybe I forgot to tell you. It's really important to have a goal. like one specific thing you want to achieve. And the more concrete it is, the easier it is to get. I wrote a 2-page document, writing down to where I am, how I feel with who I am, how, like, what's the light, what's the food that I eat at that moment. I wrote down a Friday morning to a Saturday afternoon. I wrote it down and saying, in 5 years, this is where I am, this is what I eat, this is who I am, and I'm going to work towards that. Something very concrete. And usually it's not money, because money is usually not a good motivator. If you don't have any, it's a great motivator to get some. But once you have the basics, it's probably not a good motivator. So it could be something like, in 2025, on December, I would like to give my children the gift of flying to Japan for 1 week to see these 2 spots. The reason is I'm very inspired by the culture. My children always kept asking about it, and I want to give them that experience. I want to see the joy in their eyes when they walk into a temple in Tokyo. And that will give me the energy as a dad that I'm a good person or something like that. That's the thing that will drive you to get somewhere. That's the thing that gives you the energy. You translate that, it's like, to be able to do that, I would need 12,000 euros in the bank. That's a sub goal. And actually having something where you want to go, like having that goal fairly clear, I think really helps you. Because I think we all get a little lost. It's like, oh, I'll take the opportunity here, I'll take the opportunity there. But where did you want to go? Where did you want to go? And I think that helps you see the broad things, but pick what actually makes you go there in that direction. So sometimes we get a little lost with all the opportunities. It's like, oh, this is great. And somebody offered me this. Oh, what a lovely job. And the job makes more money. But does it get you to where you want? Maybe staying in this job a little longer and learning that particular skill will get you where you actually want to be. So don't always hop, but stay a little focused. And in my experience, having an emotional connection to the goal, I never have an emotional connection to money. Like it doesn't, money is a vehicle to do something. What is it that I want to achieve? I want to feel that I'm a good dad. And maybe I think by taking to Japan is what makes me a good dad. Whatever. I could be wrong. It doesn't really matter. It's my weirdness. So if I have that goal, I will go and try and achieve it. So if you have something bigger than just remote work, but having something like a vision for yourself where you want to be in 5 years, that usually helps a lot in staying the course of where you could be. It helped me a lot. I wrote it down. I made I printed it out. I actually went to Fiverr and let an American voiceover record my goal, put it on my phone, and played it every morning in the car back to me. So this is how focused I was to get where I wanted to be. So that helps me a little bit sometimes in staying the course of where I want to be as a person.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anybody else?
Where are you located?
In Jávea.
Well, yeah, but what part of Javea? You have an office or something like that? Or
Yeah, I have an office next to the police station in Ronda Sur.
Oh yeah, Ronda. So yeah, I think that I see you one day, or I see you the office is near to
yeah, I'm actually I'm 3-4 blocks away from Blokke Cultura. No, I don't know where it's called, but from the police station, you walk back, and then I'm there, and I usually sit there in front of 2 big glass windows, and we work in here.
And it's possible to visit you to go there, or how to do it?
It's probably easier. Like I have, if you see me, just come in, knock
Yeah.
the door, say hi. I might be in a call and I give you my phone number and it's like, we meet on another moment, but you can always knock the door if you see me.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So you're welcome.
Ese pájaro canta muy bien, ¿eh?
I have no idea. Some birds over there. It's like I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
I feel like in Playa del Carmen again. Me siento en la playa. Like,
Está fuerte el pajarito.
qué extraño este lugar. Okay.
Pues nada, Pepe, Damaris, Darío, que se acaba de incorporar ahora. ¿Queréis preguntarle alguna cosita a Dennis?
Oh, perdí todo el video, entonces ya puedes ver en grabación. Si quieres saber algo así. Si no,
Solo
cerramos.
quiere felicitar por la magnífica sencillez con lo que has expuesto todo, ¿eh? Además, felicitarte también por lo bien que se entiende tu inglés, porque uno es de pueblo, ¿eh? Y no habla inglés, habla valencianglish, en realidad valencianglish es la mezcla del valenciano y el inglés, y lo he entendido todo, con lo cual, Denis, te agradezco mucho la labor que están haciendo, ¿no?
Perfecto. Es en mi acento americanizado holandés, entonces que es suerte que es también mi segundo idioma, entonces no hablo tan rápido, pero gracias por tu compliment.
La historia de Pepe también algún día me gustaría que os conocierais, porque compartís mucho. Pepe es una gran mente de aquí de la Marina Alta.
Genial. Un gusto.
Y Denis, ¿cómo fue la idea? ¿Cómo llegaste a Javea? ¿Qué fue la razón? Me perdí el principio, a lo mejor ya lo contaste. Disculpa si lo
Escapando los balas. No, ya viví 10 años en México y corrí del norte de México para el sur y luego definitivamente allá llegaron también los narcotraficantes. Y como yo siempre soy como medio público, como personaje, como siempre hago un coworking, siempre hago muchos eventos, allá manejé el Javea Connect que aquí existía ya también, y yo manejé como yo empecé el 15.000 personas en un grupo así. Entonces yo escuché todo y sabiendo todo, hablando varias veces con la embajada de Estados Unidos, había muchos problemas de los narcos y yo pensé que en un momento no quiero para mis hijos, porque yo pasé una vez todo el drama allá. Entonces fui a buscar con la verdad, el primer ahorro que después de muchos años de problemas familiares, ya tengo. Primero dije, vamos a buscar un plan B. Y gastamos, no sé, $15,000 creo en 6 meses para buscar otro país, otra zona que puede ser un base en caso que no va bien en México. Y una de las paradas era aquí, Jávea. Viajamos desde Sevilla hasta Barcelona. Y de verdad era uno de los 4 lugares que escogimos para tal vez establecer. Empezamos aquí, porque los otros estaba todo en Cataluña. Y justamente en este año, Cataluña no quería ser parte de España más.
Ya, me acuerdo.
Cuando llegó, dijo, ok, y mi esposa es argentina, quiere su pasaporte español. Entonces dijo, ok, si ellos no quieren ser parte de España, nosotros no vamos allá, entonces quedamos aquí y justamente alrededor de este tiempo conocemos muchos amigos y ya cuando estás estableciendo con gente que te caes bien, ese es el momento que dices, hay playa, hay rocas, hay montañas, hay verde, hay la verdad todo, entonces, ¿por qué no? Quedamos aquí. Y ya es lógico el camino que caminamos.
Ujú. Entiendo, sí. Lo entiendo. Lo mismo, algo parecido me pasó a mí, solo que, bueno, para explicar, yo no estoy en Javea, yo estoy en Alemania de momento y acabamos de comprar casa en Javea y también es la idea, bueno, primero era la idea también en Cataluña, pero el mismo motivo que dijimos, la idea no nos gusta de separarnos, queremos estar en España y así que así llegamos también a Javea. Y me suena muy conocido el pensamiento
Sí.
de que dices, pues es un sitio que tiene
Sí,
mucho
fuimos
espacio.
de playa a playa, como nuestro requisito para nosotros era más que 20.000, menos que 100,
Ujú,
y cerca de la playa.
ujú,
Y llegamos aquí en un momento en octubre y fuimos a la Arenal, quedamos una semana en un Airbnb. Y en la Arenal caminamos y escuché 5 idiomas y como, wow,
ujú,
interesante, todos los niños en la playa, como, este suena como algo que me va a
ujú,
gustar.
ujú,
Es suficiente internacional,
ujú,
así los niños no tenemos que explicar como, en Holanda antes había solo blancos holandeses que no le gusta a nadie más que holandeses, y yo no quiero esto para mis hijos. Yo quiero que dices, escuche todos los idiomas, le ve todos los
ujú,
colores. Yo creo que para mejorar el mundo tenemos que conocernos a todos con nuestra diferente cultura, idiomas y todo, y yo veo mezcla muy natural aquí en las escuelas, y entonces
ujú.
para mejorar a la siguiente generación creo es importante.
Perfecto. Sí. Ahí estoy contigo. O sea, eso es también lo que me gusta en Javea, que escuchas muchos idiomas, eso de todo. Hay mucho español, pero no hay una nacionalidad, bueno, hay una extranjera que domina, ok, los ingleses pienso, pero sino que hay una mezcla muy bonita y entre todos. Así que eso es lo especial de Javea que veo, que no domina nadie, así al
Creo
final.
que me comentaron que había hasta 52 nacionalidades registradas. Y hay un evento que a mí me vuelve creo que, Dennis, porque va acumulándose gente, y error mío por el cartel, ahora estoy cayendo, que ponía a las 8 y he puesto en algunos grupos a las 7. Tienes que repetir, te vas a quedar tú solo
Yo
aquí.
pensé que también era a las 8, pero dijo,
Ya.
Sí,
aquí
sí,
estoy,
sí,
aquí estoy.
sí. Pues los que vayan entrando, ya saben, invítalos a cerveza, tragos, como dices tú.
Sí, vamos a hacer tragos.
Bueno, pero
En la
volviendo
siguiente pecacucha.
a lo que estaba comentando, en junio, ojalá lo vuelvan a hacer, hay un festival, ¿no? que conjuntan, vienen muchos países, se agrupan,
Sí, sí.
los suizos, de
International
Hawái.
Festival, creo, festival internacional, y está todo
Exactamente.
comidas. Hay unas 10, 15 puestecitos y hay música y
Pero
todo.
es curiosísimo, porque lo típico sería ver a los suizos con su raclette, a los alemanes con su cerveza, o sea, muy tópico eso, ¿no? Pero es que hay cada nacionalidad que te encuentras y dices, pero bueno, vamos a pastelitos marroquíes por aquí, del Congo belga por allá, y digo, wow, qué fuerte.
Sí, sí, qué guay.
Nos enviarás a
Ay,
través del Working el enlace correspondiente para asistir a ese
Exactamente.
festival, ¿eh? Por
Ese no va a
favor,
ser digital, ese va a ser presencial.
para acercarnos. También el día 12 y 13 de mayo, esto ya es más comarcal, ¿eh? Tenemos el Compartir con Marina Alta 2022 en Teulada Moraira. Esa idea de comarca la estamos también potenciando algunos, y yo estoy ahí haciendo presión para que ese evento de Compartir Marina Alta, que será en el auditorio de Teulada Moraira el 12 y 13 de mayo, ¿no? También venga mucha gente, y se nos está diciendo que si el sitio web tendría que ser en inglés. Yo, que soy el responsable de comunicación de ese evento, no lo tengo claro, porque si lo hacemos en inglés, la convocatoria, allí tendríamos que hablar en inglés y no tenemos de momento a nadie en ese foro de debate en inglés. Todos son del territorio, será en castellano, me imagino que no habrá problema para los ingleses, ¿no? Pero creo que el web no debe de ser en inglés, porque si el web es en inglés tendríamos que hablar en inglés también en el evento, y no tenemos, hoy por hoy no tenemos esa representación en el evento, ¿no? Pero bueno, estáis todos invitados a ese evento de compartir Marina Alta en el 12 y 13 de mayo en el auditorio Taulada de Moraida. Muy interesante el auditorio.
Contad, Pepe, un poco en qué consiste, o sea, el evento, lo que hablaréis, más o menos, pon ahí
Vale,
un
pues
gusanito para...
es un evento que está estructurado por mesas, son 2 días de actividad, ¿no? El primer día empezamos a las 9:30, terminamos a las 7, hay comida, hay vermuts, hay pausas, hay cafés, ¿no? Y son 5 mesas en total, 7, ahora diré porque son 5 más 2, 5 que son de medio ambiente, turismo, sanidad, seguridad y formación. Esas son las 5 mesas formales, ¿no? Y luego están 2 mesas añadidas más, que son las de periodistas, que van a hacer preguntas a la mesa de alcaldes. O sea, habrá una mesa de alcaldes también, de los 33 municipios, más las 3 EA-Teams que tenemos en la comarca, ¿no? Y esos alcaldes van a tener la posibilidad de responder a preguntas que hará la gente a través de Mentimeter, a través de Menti, o a través del móvil, ¿no? Y podrán responder a las preguntas. Y yo coordino precisamente la mesa de alcaldes, ¿no? Y luego habrá la mesa de periodistas, que harán una especie de titular resumen de lo que ha sido la jornada de los 2 días, ¿no? Habrá comida de gala el segundo día, comida picnic el primer día. La asistencia a todo el evento sin comida de gala son 20 euros, la asistencia al evento con comida de gala son 50 euros. Es decir, que por lo tanto cualquiera puede asistir, si lo desea, ¿no? Y haremos un sitio web que se llamará compartirmarinaalta.org, y en ese, o .com, no me acuerdo, un compartir Marina Alta, y en ese compartir Marina Alta uno se apunta, accede o patrocina, porque también estamos buscando patrocinadores. Hoy precisamente hemos hecho la rueda de prensa en el auditorio, ¿no? Y la intención de esa rueda de prensa era que se difunda en la prensa y que se apunte gente a poner pasta para que esto salga bien, porque sin pasta las cosas no van. Ese es el tema.
Gracias. Para las personas que llegan tarde, perdón. Primero, tenemos todo grabado, entonces cuando terminamos, tarda creo unos 15 minutos para tener y no sé si puedes difundir a las personas, Raúl, así no
Sí,
tenemos que hacer
eso
todo
no hay
nuevo.
ningún problema. Simplemente los que hayan entrado ahora por la confusión que ha habido por la hora, mea culpa, también lo entono. Si le queréis preguntar alguna cosita sobre vuestros proyectos o vuestras ideas a Dennis, pues lo tenéis aquí vivito.
Okay.
Yo quería hacerte una pregunta, Denis,
Sí.
sobre, bueno, pregunta ya, primero, vamos, agradecerte mucho la información que has dado de ese proceso evolutivo que hacen los profesionales, ¿no? Desde autónomos van creciendo de la manera que lo has contado, ha sido magnífica y perfecta, ¿no? Yo estoy ya en la etapa final, porque yo me acabo de jubilar en la universidad hace un añito, exacto, bueno, el curso pasado, ¿no? Y ahora estoy en esa etapa no de cero, sino de empresa, de universidad, e intentar, diríamos, tomar ese camino de hacerlo desde casa y con ordenador todo, por decirlo de alguna manera. Aún tengo unos clientes de consultoría, pero ya tengo que ir a verles y tal, pero mi ilusión es de cero a lo que sea, pero desde casa y por ordenador. ¿Tú crees que lo que nos has contado hoy, que ha sido muy interesante, y he tomado nota de todo, tiene también utilidad para personas que están en ese cero a los 68 años, como yo tengo en estos momentos?
Sí, en mi experiencia, ya tienes un red mucho más fuerte que cuando estás más joven, ¿verdad? Entonces, el chance que tienes tú es obvio hacer una página para recibir una forma de pagos. Tal vez es tan sencillo como Visum, pero tener el producto. El producto puede ser que estás en contacto con gente. En mi experiencia con mi familia, cuando llega a esta edad, primero hay una pausa, pero muy pronto después entra un poquito de soledad y dices, ay, sí, yo quiero ver gente y sí quiero sentir necesario en el mundo, entonces voy a seguir con proyectos. Y tu red es importante, pero yo creo que la parte igual es, tal vez no tienes que hacer todos los pasos que hicimos, pero puedes escoger perfecto qué quieres tú. Y difundir este en tu red y hacer llamadas de Zoom, como consultoría de este. O no sé exactamente qué es eso, pero si estás sentado en una mesa con todos los alcaldes, puede ser un consultoría diciendo, ok, ¿cómo haces proyectos trabajando con el gobierno? Si tú eres empresario, yo puedo. Entonces la consultoría es ayudar a empresas que están chocando en vez de trabajando juntos. Entonces, escogen niche y luego difundir que este niche es mío y yo pueda hacer esto. Entonces, tal vez no tienes que tomar todos los pasos de empezar a trabajar en ese sitio, puedes brincar directamente a Zoom, consultorías y pago por visum, ¿verdad? Entonces, allá puede ser. Pero la parte igual es el niche. Porque cuando yo sé qué haces, yo puedo hacer correr la voz. Si no sé qué eres o qué haces, es muy complicado de explicar al otro. Entonces nadie va a saber si tú no defines muy bien. Entonces la definición tiene que ser como en inglés el elevator pitch, como súper cortito. Dices, yo ayudo a empresas que, que tienen 100 empleados a conectar mejor con el gobierno. Ok, súper nicho, solo o restaurantes o X, con expertise que tienes. Y cuando estés claro, cuando yo estoy en un bar hablando con alguien, dices, bla, 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 así, ese es Pepe. Tienes que hablar con él, porque él lo hace solo eso. Es el experto en eso. Y ya es más fácil de ganar dinero, porque dices, un experto al mínimo cobra 50 euros por hora. Es como ir al psicólogo, como 60. Entonces, ya, es algo. Y dices, muy bien, yo tomo a tu mano, hacemos 5 sesiones, tú puedes esperar que yo llegamos aquí con una introducción, cómo hablas, cómo vistes, qué no haces, qué no dices, y así ayudas en esto. Estoy inventando algo, pero es el niche que tienes que escoger, súper definido, y así corre la voz, como una expertise que tienes tú, no sé cuál.
Fantástico. Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias, Denis.
De nada.
Me iluminas mucho, de veras. Gracias.
Cool. Otras personas que alguien tiene algo.
Pues preguntarles, Darío, KM, Nasikan, Damaris, ¿alguien quiere preguntarle algo a Denis? Pues creo que te dejan
Estamos.
libre. Con este buen
Muy
tiempo
bien.
es que apetece ya estar por fuera, ¿verdad?
No sé, porque entro con lluvia y estoy viendo afuera, pero hizo llamadas las últimas 6 horas.
Pero
Entonces,
eso pasa allí en
me
tu país,
apetece ir
Holanda.
allá a la esquina, tomar un cervecita y terminar mi día así alto.
Sí que es verdad, sí que es verdad. La verdad es que un mes llevamos con con la lluvia y no estamos acostumbrados aquí. Esto que todo comentario siempre es tú que es algo superficial cuando hablas del tiempo, pero es que este mes ha sido como, ¿qué nos ha pasado?
Sí, yo sé, es diferente. Sí, este era el mes cuando llego a Javea, la primera vez que no
Así.
creo que este era el sitio que escogí.
Pues nada, si
Pero
no
ya.
queréis, estoy leyendo aquí el chat que todo ok, que has hablado muy bien, gracias sin preguntas y otra cosa en holandés que sabrás tú. Y,
¿Qué? Ay, perfecto.
nada, pues,
Dice, op het moment niet, dank je. Es que significa, en el momento no tengo preguntas, gracias.
muy bien. Pues muchas gracias, Denis, por estar tan
De nada,
cercano
Raúl.
y por haberlo compartido también. La verdad es que es un honor a veces cafetear contigo en presencial, a veces saber tu trayectoria y es que reencarnas lo que estamos potenciando aquí, que es el bisworking
Sí.
y como no, tú eres un claro ejemplo. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Y cualquier persona toca la puerta al Nexopia si pasas Ronda Sur 44, si me ves. Tal vez no tengo tiempo en este momento, pero lo paso en mi celular y tomamos un cafecito, un trago.
Con esa palabra finalizamos.
Yo sé de que te gusta, entonces lo uso
Eso,
luego. Vamos.
me quedé. No, es que Dennis y yo, os lo cuento ya que estamos en confianza, tenemos una broma, una coña que me llamó mucho cuando conocí su historia. Claro, estamos en formatos de pechacucha o beers and buys o reuniones de emprendedores. Pues me llamó la atención Dennis, allí por México, soltó una frase así como, bueno, yo pago los tragos y nos reunimos los emprendedores, ¿no? Y me quedé.
Sí, es la primera que cuando llego aquí a Javea es como, ¿qué son los remote workers? Ok, ven todo a la siesta, este hicimos. Ahí no sé si ya conocimos. Yo pago todos los tragos a todos, pero ven a esta hora a las 6 y charlamos y vinieron 15 personas y
Estuvo
me
muy bien.
salió con 150 euros y muchos más amigos, entonces
Claro,
ya
exactamente.
está.
Pues muchas gracias a todos. Nos
Perfecto.
despedimos.
Hasta luego a todos. Linda
Chao.
noche. Gracias.